All right. Hey, everyone. Thanks for joining us. The first episode of a new podcast. We're going to call it Podus Operandi. Thanks to Mitch for coming up with that one. Mitch and Steve, if you don't know, do their own podcast called Dead Air Radio. And we've been big fans over here. I was a guest on their show like a month ago. We did a whole episode on TransWorld video parts. And I wanted to try doing a podcast over here with them. I always liked their just kind of honest take on things and kind of like skate shop talk. Both these guys have been in the industry, worked for brands, had their own brands, worked in shops, and just grown up over on the East Coast, whereas I grew up on the West Coast, so I just always dug the vibe of their pods. And so we're doing one now, and we're kind of throwing around ideas of what the first episode should be, different segments, this and that. We're just talking about what was going on recently, and the new Static video came out. I was in New York for the premiere, and so Steve said, why don't we just make the first episode about Static and the history of Static videos. We got a lot of, I think, interesting stuff to talk about, and some walks down memory lane with Josh Stewart's 24-year legacy here of independent skate videos.
So how was the premiere? Considering that we're both from the East Coast and neither of us went. So
yeah,
you went. How was it?
Yeah, well, I mean, just premieres in general. I was stoked to just be going to a big premiere in a theater. It's been a while. Like I've missed the last few out here. Like I missed Lakai, Bubble, and there's been a couple that I've missed, and I feel like there's only a few a year nowadays, that are going to be in a big theater. And to see it in the hometown of the brand, or seeing a Static premiere in New York City is, probably like an event you're gonna always remember. So I was stoked, and it's been a long time coming since the last one was 2014 was when he did the double feature, Static 4.5. Yeah, it was a big deal. The New Balance kind of helped pay for the theater, the premieres. So my buddy Tyrone and a bunch of New Balance guys were in town, of course, like Jordan Trahan's in the video. The FTC is opening a skate shop in New York. They were supposed to open it the Friday before. The Static premiere was on a Tuesday. FTC was supposed to open the Friday before, but a bunch of their apparel got stuck in customs, so it got pushed. But there was a bunch of the FTC people in town. It was hot as hell. It was like the middle of a heat wave, and the AC wasn't working in the theater, so we were kind of joking like this is the sweatiest premiere ever. And then Josh gave a speech before the video started, and he said for Static 4.5 it was the same theater and the AC was also broken when they premiered Static 4.5. Other than that, the theater was great. They had beers and popcorn, and it was, it was cool to see all the New York City skate community out. Yeah, so they were showing, the tin can skate trivia that Steiner and Jovi do. Mm-hmm. They had a Static version kind of playing on the screen before the video while you waited. Then they showed trailers going to a real movie. There's a trailer for a new Traffic video, Paul Young's new video, and then I think a video out of Japan. And then gave a pretty long speech and broke down how many years he's been doing it and how his back is it's screwed, permanently screwed. When the video got going and you saw these parts, there's a lot of kind of surprise parts or maybe people that are in the video, but they've got pretty decent couple minute long parts. It's with some OGs, and it's at some spots cities out there. And so I was thinking while I was watching, I'm like, damn, these guys were out there filming these, kind of older OGs, get these tricks. It is a big undertaking, a lot of effort. Yeah, I actually was skating with Josh Stewart and Jordan Trahan in New York in 2018 or 2019. I think 2018. And I asked Josh, I'm like, yeah, so what do you think? He's filming, got a couple clips of Jordan that day. I'm like, what are you filming for? He's like, I think another Static project. And then here we are 5 years later. Yeah. But if you look, because I wrote down the years that all the Static videos came out, and it was the first one was 99, second one was 04, so that's 5 years. Static 3 was 07, so that was only 3 years. Then Static 4.5 was 2014, so that's 7 years between those two. And then another 7, or no, that's
almost
2014 until now is, yeah. I thought Static 4.5 came out later, in 2016, but
yeah, it felt like when you said 2014, I was kind of shocked.
It came out the same year as Cherry. I know, right? It was Cherry 2014.
I don't know.
Because I knew they came out the same year because of the TransWorld Awards that year. It was I don't want to give any spoilers, but it was it's at least 45 minutes long. I don't think it's an hour, somewhere in there. But during Josh's speech, he's like, this video's long. It's kind of funny because he knew we were all hot. Yeah, and they haven't really put out who's got the main full parts. I think there's 4 guys that have the main full parts. a couple montages. You know, I think one of the montages is all kind of like guys that had been in static videos in the past. One of the montages ends with a really sick trick of someone that like you never see footage of. I'm not going to spoil that one. I don't know. What have you guys heard, or what? When I posted the photos at the premiere, I got so many DMs of like, how was it? How was it? How was it? Like, who's in it? Like, what's the music like? So
Yeah, I almost wanted to be surprised. I've been trying to like stay off of that stuff, but I did watch that one Village Psychic piece where they kind of talked about everybody ahead of time. Where they interviewed people and they mentioned
yeah,
it. So it's out there.
yeah.
Kevin Taylor having a part. That's exciting.
He's got
Dude, KT.
Yeah,
like,
he's got
find me a person that has
section.
a bad thing to say about KT. You know, it's like
nicest dude. I think he was there at the premiere too.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he was. Yeah, I think him and Plain were there.
He was there,
That's insane. He's
Yeah.
got to be almost 50.
He's over 50.
right?
And
He's
a grandfather.
over-
Is he over 50?
Dude's a grandfather. He just posted something that like his kid had a kid.
He's a grandfather. Yeah, I think Sheffy is 50 and he's a grandpa. But there's not many guys who can still like rip street skating in their 50s.
Dude, yeah, and
Well, I guess
like,
Rick Howard turned 50, right?
So insane, because I remember it was like the old dudes, and it was like Tony Hawk and Steve Cavallero and Lance Mountain, you know, and that's such a different style from like seeing, you know, Sheffy and Rick Howard. Like they're still, I guess they're doing a little more. It was like, you know, Cavallero doing a board slide down a big rail is pretty crazy, but like you knew that was pretty much what you were gonna get.
Yeah. And when Cab was doing those big rails, looking back, he wasn't even that old. He's maybe in his 30s, and we were probably thinking like, oh my God, this guy is like the oldest guy skating handrails. Yeah.
What can you tell us, like without giving out too many spoilers?
But I think everyone knows, like Jordan Trahan's in it, obviously. Because a lot of the places they're doing the premieres are for the guys in it, you know, like they did a New Orleans premiere, they did a New Haven premiere for Trevor Thompson. They did. They're doing a Chicago premiere for Brett Weinstein. John,
yeah,
I don't know where John Baraggan was.
Baraggan. Well, I guess he's like a
Sorry.
He's from Miami.
Okay.
Oh, really?
So I'm sure there's a Miami premiere.
So I'll tell a little funny story quick. I'm gonna go off tangent here, but so when he first moved to New York, my partner and I were still running Northern Company. I had friends from Maryland, so all the dudes like Willie Stackis, all these dudes from Baltimore, they knew the Miami dudes because one of them went to college out there, and then they met up. They were moved to the city, and I guess John came out to visit or was going in the city, but he was like fresh to New York. He was on Aisle Flow. But I didn't know that at the time. And I remember I was like, dude, this kid's so sick. And I remember it was like 50 degrees out, and he had a bubble jacket on, and he was shivering. And I was like, what the hell's going on? He was like, I'm from Florida, man. This is really cold. And he was so good and such a nice dude. And I asked my friend Willie, I said, Willie, does he get boards from anybody? And Willie's like, no, he doesn't. And I was like, all right, cool. So I hit up my partner, and I was like, hey, there's this dude out here who's super sick. I want to give him boards. And he was like, all right, yeah, cool. So I was like, Willie, find out what size board he rides. And we met up the next day, and I was like, hey, John, I'd like to give you boards. And he's like, oh, thanks, it's really nice of you, but I get aisle boards already. And I just looked at Willie, and he's just like, oh, I didn't know, I guess kind of saying like it was cool that the dude wasn't all in your face, like, yeah, I ride for all this stuff or whatever. Yeah, they kind of buried him forever on all the theories flow. Super amazing skater.
Yeah, the first time I skated with him, I was super impressed. Him and Sayers were like going off at that Chauncey spot.
Yeah, next level. Dude, they do like laps around the Chauncey ledges. It's this ledge spot in Brooklyn.
Yeah, I know which one it is. I've never been to it because isn't it kind of far out there?
Yeah, kind of. Super good skater, though. Did anybody care about his part, though? Because he's almost so good in playing. He's like a John Wynn part. You know, like he reminds me of that.
Yeah, no, because I know like New York can be notorious for like people don't cheer at the premieres or whatever, but no, this one was like everybody was stoked. It seemed like so many people in the theater had been in past Static videos or had clips in this new one. Like, there's a lot of people that have like clips in the montages, or like I said, a lot of surprise short parts. So yeah, almost everyone in the theater, like if you weren't in the video, one of your good friends was. So no, there's a lot of like cheering. It was a fun premiere. It was cool.
I went to the one with Soy in it, so that was Static 3.
Static.
So I went to the 3 premiere.
Yeah, Static 3. Yeah, Static 3 has a star-studded cast. I was going back looking at the casts.
I remember going to that though, and I think it was actually the GX premiere, which I didn't go to, but I think that got them all from wherever they used to go for all the premieres. That had it like shut down, like they weren't allowed to do any skate premieres anymore after like the GX premiere. I heard people were like spray painting all over. And
the Sunshine Theater on Houston used to have all kinds of premieres.
That's the one.
It'd be like a house party in there, and I can't believe they would like continually let skate companies have premieres there. I'm like, these people are freaking nuts.
Yeah,
but then eventually, they either banned them or it shut down. And I think this theater that Static was in might have been also like where Play Dead premiered. I don't know. I could be wrong.
I'm excited to see Trevor Thompson's part.
Yeah, and so his part is really good, obviously, but it's really different from like any of his weekend parts.
That's kind of what I was thinking, though. Like, it's gonna be like all that weekend stuff is so like it's all Grant's viewpoint of stuff. So
and maybe he filmed a lot in LA for weekend, but this looks like it's all in Connecticut. Maybe, I don't know. It's all spots that.
Well, they have that shop, right? And then I forget what
him and Alexis
have a shop.
Plush or something.
Plush? I don't remember what it's called. My friend Charlie buys stuff from them all the time.
Plush something?
Plush 96 or something.
But shout out to Plush in Connecticut. I had a question. Who's never had a part in a Static video that you'd like to see or you wish had?
That's a really good one. Do you have one, Blair?
Zared came to mind today. I was watching Aaron Harrington's part in 4-5. I don't know if Zared had a guest trick, or maybe I was going down rabbit holes of YouTube video parts, but Harrington and Zared on like some cons connection, and I was like, I mean, maybe Zared's had guest tricks in Static videos. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm sure he's been in them, but he really is like the best. That's a really good one.
Yeah, we'll see if Josh does Static 7 or what he does next. I mean, I'm sure he's going to keep doing. He has to keep making videos, you know. He's got a stable of brands and a distribution. So,
but Dave Cato would have been cool to have in a Static video.
Oh my god! Yeah, he never. That's crazy.
Yeah, he always had like clips, but
yeah, he had to have had some clips. That guy's too classic.
See, that kind of puts me in like I'd like to see a Steve Durrani. Like he had that like little New Jersey section in Static 3, but like I would have loved to have seen when Steve was really going for it.
Yeah. Static 3 was a good era, I think, in the whole East Coast, Florida, everything, with the parts in that one, with Danny Renaud, and that was another thing in that Village Psychic one when they're asking everyone their favorite parts in the past. Like nobody said Danny Renaud. I'm like, that's insane.
Well, it's a weird one. Mitch and I were talking about this one because that's one almost like before hurting himself and like kind of being done for a while. He was so good. He was already on like a demise. Where my friend Zeb in Philly told me like, like people might like this part, but dude, he's filming stuff he wouldn't normally film. And he was like, he's got to be done. And I was like, wow, you see it and you're like, there's so much good stuff in here. But he was just on such another level.
Because that was post Mosaic, right?
Yeah, so Mosaic was 03 and Static 3 was 07.
Oh, wow.
And then
because he was on stereo then, I think, right?
Yeah, he was on stereo. Because Clint Peterson and like Ollie Todd have guest tricks, or it like his part like segues
transitions
into Ollie Todd.
into
And Supa has a guest trick. But I had to look up, and then when he had his accident was 2008, so I was like, oh man, that was
Yeah, I ran into him in like 2012 out in LA, and I didn't even recognize him. And like I had seen him for years around here, but it was right when he was like starting to make that comeback of like skating again. I ran into him in LA, and it was like so exciting to see him like oh, he's skating again, and he looks great, and he looks healthy, and he's like getting into it, and like then he got on Politic like a couple months after that, and it was just ran from there. So it was cool to see.
Yeah, it's incredible. Yeah, incredible comeback.
From what he came back from, and to still even be able to do, even half of what he does would be pretty sick. Like to come back from that, like basically, I think they like rebuilt his legs or something.
Yeah, you'd never know that Chad fell
So sick.
fell 9.
And he's still doing stuff. He just had that part within the last year, right, with him and Ross Norman.
Yeah, brass tacks.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
And he always had
And it seems like
sabotage stuff. Like Penny's always out with him.
But to think what would if he would have stayed on par from like Habitat, not got kicked off, get the time machine and go back. I can imagine where that dude would be.
It seems like when teams go to Miami, they visit his house and he's got like a bunch of farm animals and stuff and a mini ramp.
Yeah, I just saw that he tore the mini ramp down.
Man, skaters being mental cases, it's great. But Blair, I'd like to introduce the randomizer to anybody who hasn't seen our podcast. So here we go.
I love it.
We just
I love it.
pick things out of a hat, literally. So I wrote down some static guys who had static parts. We can just start picking a few out of here. We'll go with that and see where it goes. First one, John Ige.
Oh, there you go.
The J-Roo song.
Man, I remember getting Static 2, and I was super into aesthetics, super into all that stuff.
Oh, yeah.
And, like, the John Ige part was a standout part for me in that. I was like, holy shit, I gotta... Static 2, I love this. I'm gonna, get this video. I'm gonna pre-book it. I want to see Ige's part. And I remember at the time, too, I remember messaging Josh Stewart, like, hey, are you guys taking submissions? And I sent footage of, like, my friends, because we would film all the time. And it was cool. He got back to me. He's like, yeah, it's a little late. The video's almost done. I don't know how this stuff fits. But I remember he used to have, The Theories was a blog. I don't know if you guys remember that, like Theories of Atlantis. I think it was just like a blog. And I remember posting something on there, and like somebody said something, and Josh Stewart was like, no, they didn't suck at skating. Like the skating was cool. It just didn't work with what we had. It was cool he said that. I was like, oh, that's cool. It wasn't for another thing. But I remember watching that video, and then when it got to the Pulio part, that was like eye-opening. Like, holy shit. Like, look at all these spots. Look how he's hitting all this stuff. Super awesome. I think that video just straight through sick watch.
Yeah, I was looking up to see who had the last part in Static 2. Do you guys remember?
It's Kenny Reed. Kenny Reed, last part.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Skating in front of the pyramids.
Oh, man, and it's such a sick part, but I only think of his 7-year glitch part because that was like top 5 part of all
that
time.
part's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think in my head I was so wrapped up in like the Philly 4 section in there that I was like...
Mitch is the Philly 4 from Philly.
The not from Philly 4?
It's wild too, like, jacks it back, right? There's some ledgy backside nose grinds or nose grinds, and they painted it like blue and yellow. Like, they did a lot of work on some of those spots too. I think there was one they totally like painted to make it look more appealing, which is pretty cool.
Heath Kirchart painted a clipper to backlift it, painted the whole thing red. Yeah.
Another name from the randomizer?
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah, I think we're ready to move on. The Ige led us on
Mitch's favorite?
Long time.
Nate Broussard?
Aesthetics and Static 2. And, Nate Broussard, yeah. So, yeah, he's part of, like the star-studded cast in Static 3.
Yep. He ended it.
Really? He's got the last part of
Last
Static
part,
3?
yeah.
Okay. What happened to him? He kind of bowed out kind of early, huh?
Because this is pretty cool, actually. I
Toy
can
Machine?
get into him a little. So he was on Skate Mental. He kind of bailed.
So he was on Skate
He was
Mental?
on Skate Mental at the end, yeah. He was on Roger with that, and then Roger went under. So he was kind of doing nothing, and he was a UPS driver. He was doing that, and he was kind of skating a little. And when we were doing Northern, like my partner and I, there's some things on occasion the stars would align and we'd agree on something, And he was in Texas, and we knew people in Texas, and it was like, holy shit, he's skating, and it was like, would you want to guest board? And we were gonna try and keep him on, and then he got hurt, and he was kind of like, my ankle's hurt. I don't really feel like it's not always fun to try and push myself again. But we did 2 guest boards with him. He was super hyped. I remember him telling us too that because we paid him for the royalties for the guest board, and he was like, this is the first check I've gotten from a deck company. And I was so blown away, you know, I'm
Yeah.
like, what? And he was like, yeah, I never got paid. So audio was like the only thing paying him. And that's when he was kind of like, I gotta live, dude. I just want to be able to like live and make money and, you know, be able to get by instead of just like struggling as like a broke skater. So yeah, he went back to Texas and became a UPS driver.
So was he
Doing that.
not
I don't know if
pro
he's
for
still doing
Roger?
it. He might have been, but yeah, they don't. Dude, nobody. It's so funny. Like I hear all this stuff and like people don't get paid, or it takes them forever to get paid, and
Wild.
it's pretty wild.
Yeah, I heard my buddy who's a pro in Europe that said he's never gotten paid for him. And he's got a big board sponsor over there. And I was like, you've never gotten paid? He's like,
Yeah,
I've never
it's-
gotten paid.
Dude, skating's smoke and mirrors.
Well, I mean, the parts that he put out are going to live forever. He was one of the smoothest to ever do it.
He floated.
Was he on Toy Machine, or am I tripping?
Yep.
Yeah, it's like Steve said when we talked about that part yesterday. Like he just floats.
So
Yeah,
sick.
that might be his best part ever, right?
I think so. And he was riding an 8.5-inch board because that was something we asked him about. Like, dude, your board looks so friggin' big in that video.
Yeah.
And he
you
said
could
it was an
tell,
8.5.
Yeah, big board. Like,
Yeah, which
wow,
now is
way before that's normal now. Yeah, totally normal. But back then,
Mhm.
2007, that's insane. I remember, because back then I remember going on a trip with Heath Kirchart, and I was checking out his board, and he was riding an 8.25, and that was like the biggest. Maybe Reynolds was on an 8.25, 8.1. You know, yeah. I mean, back then an 8 was big. You know, I remember being in Barcelona in 03, and I was riding either 7.75s or 7.6s, and John Newport
Good things. Very good things. Sweet things.
was on 8 inches, and he's like, dude, this is a Cadillac, man. You got to get an 8-inch board with 50mm wheels. It's the perfect. And then, like, I think I tried that out years later. I'm like, oh, this is it, and ran that for years, and then tried to set up an 8.25 one time. I was like, no way, it's too big.
Should we take another name?
Yeah, let's do another one.
Yeah, let's do one more. See where it leads us.
Am I upside down? Nope. Kenny Reed.
Yeah, great part, but yeah, maybe overshadowed by his New Deal part, which would have been, so he was in Static 2, which was 04.
The New Deal was what? I think
And his
03.
New Deal
Yeah.
part would have been before that. Yeah. So this is hot. This is like peak Kenny Reed right here, right?
Because this was
iPad.
after 7 Year.
Yeah. 7 year, because 7 year was one of the first
Yeah,
videos
yeah.
when I was working at the shop that we got a VHS and a DVD at the same time, or like right in the like same era.
2002.
Is Kenny
was
Reed on
7
the
Year.
cover? Is he on the cover of Static 2 doing like a shifty?
Yeah, a nollie shifty on flat.
That is the cover.
Yeah.
What's the like subtitle for the title of like the Untouchables or the
Invisible.
Invisibles. The
Invisibles?
Invisibles.
But yeah, this is peak Kenny Reed skating spots around the world that
I know
one's
in my
really
head I can't
been
keep
to
them
or
straight of like which part's which.
visiting.
Because I know they traveled a ton for that New Deal video too.
And even just, I feel like he would go somewhere just to get a photo. Like he'd get like intel on a spot that would look good in a photo, and just, you know, you'd open a skateboard mag or a TransWorld, Kenny Reed's in Bangladesh, and there's a bump to bar you've never seen before, and you will never go see it in real life.
Did you ever get in on any of those missions with him? Or was he already kind of... Because I know that was his thing. Like, he would,
Me?
like, work it around an article or something to, like, hey, we'll get somebody to pay for this and let's go.
No, I think when they were all living in Barcelona in the early 2000s, I think Oliver Barton linked up with him a lot. I think like Jonathan Maring rode in, the guys that were down for like kind of remote trips. I think I feel like he shot a lot with the Skateboard Mag guys, which would have been like Uyeda, maybe Ryan G. I don't know, all those early 2000s photographers. No, I never shot with Kenny. I think I would see him around Barcelona. I went there for a summer when everyone was living out there, and we'd see him and hear interesting stories about him. I think he would kind of go out and lurk solo, like late at night. People would see him like super
Like, just
late at night,
scoping
early
out
morning
stuff?
by himself. Yeah, and just kind of doing his own thing, staying away from the skaters. You know, just kind of.
Smart move.
Yeah. No, Oliver Barton told me one time. He's like, I think Kenny Reed's gotten more out of professional skateboarding than anyone. Just as far as like how much he traveled, and how much shit he saw.
Yeah, that was his iPath shoe was
Yeah,
called
always-
the Traveler,
always-
right?
Yeah, and then he probably got. Oh, it's funny. our good buddy Richie Jackson was on iPath in later years when Kenny and Fred Gall were still on, and he went on a trip with them and told me some of the incredible stories I can never tell. But he was like, dude, he was like, iPath must be paying those guys pretty good because they're like, they got after the demo when it's time to like relax, they got spending money. So
That's fun.
and this was later when Richie was on iPath. It was a lot later. So if Kenny was getting paid well for that many years, that's
Because what does he
Yeah,
do
yeah.
now? Isn't he like he's in charge of the
was like an
Indonesian
Olympic
skate
coach
team or something?
Yeah, exactly. I got someone hit me up because before the Olympics because I don't know, there's some flyer or something that they're like, oh, can TransWorld repost this or something? And yeah, he's like, I think a coach, maybe like got that job as being an Olympic coach for like an Asian nation over there. But I think he also moved back because he's originally from upstate New York, right?
Yeah, Sleepy Hollow, I believe.
So not too many years ago, I remember being in New York and he was at an event because I think he had moved back there. But
Because Decade just did that board at the last show, that Kenny Reed board.
At the Decade show, yeah.
Decade, Bob Shirt's been killing it, and it's that 30-year.
Oh, I
girl
wish I
thing
could
coming
come
up
out
should
to
be
that if I could
incredible.
find a way to get out there.
Yeah, it's in October, and he just dropped the Bob Shirt with Rudy, and it looked like he filmed a Bob Shirt with Rick too.
I hope.
It's funny because I know Tim, and he FaceTimed me.
Yeah.
Like, Tim never he FaceTimed me. He's like, I'm a girl right now. I have to catalog all these boards, and he's just showing me all of these boards, and I was just like, oh, he's like, I'm here alone right now. Like, I'm by myself. It's a Sunday.
Yeah, in Rudy's Bob Shirt, he pulls out some board that Rudy, or like the original artwork of one
the
of Rudy's
guitar
boards
one,
that
yeah.
you've never seen, and he's like, it was like, yeah, it was just here in the warehouse, just underneath some boxes.
So crazy.
So should we keep going? Anything else with Kenny Reed? Great skater, best switch ollie.
Hope you're doing good out there, Kenny.
So crazy. Who would have thought from that like core, like the utmost of core skateboarder, to being an Olympic coach?
Well, some of those countries like earmark a good paycheck for their Olympic coaches.
Oh, which I get. I'm just thinking like him, like, I could see it if it was like Sean Malto being an Olympic coach or something, but like Kenny Reed?
Yeah, right. Yeah, and Anthony Clairval got the job for the Philippines. He was their Olympic coach.
All right, so do we want to do one more?
I'm picking a different one. So this is Danny
Yeah.
Renaud. We kind of already did Danny
Yeah,
Renaud.
let's pull a different one. Danny Renaud might be my all-time favorite static part.
Well, we don't even have to randomize here. So, Blair, that's what you would say? Is Danny Renaud was your all-time favorite static point?
Find something else, but it's hard to beat a good Danny Renaud part, really. Do you guys have a...
Because it was a really
Yeah,
good part.
exactly.
Really
That's
cool
another
song.
thing. So with the new one, I feel like Josh's taste in music is pretty unique.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like the soundtracks and static videos are pretty unique. And Static 6, again, like the music is great.
I used to, I would just put Dustin Egling's part on and just listen to the music.
Which one was he in?
In 4, right?
It was like Jamaican drum music or something.
Well, what's kind of like an unofficial static video to me is the MIA, Welcome to MIA video.
Yeah.
The best De La part. Feels just like a static video.
Wow.
And that song he picked for De La is
Yeah.
such a static type
Dude.
Yeah, definitely.
choice.
All right, spoiler. Does he have a part in Static?
No, De La, no. He might have some tricks. I can't, there's.
Man.
I get confused because I think I maybe watched a recent I don't know, OJ Wheels or Brixton edit that he had tricks in. So now I'm like the tricks are all getting confused. I don't think De La had anything in Static 6.
Okay, did you ask before who we wished had
Yeah.
a Static part?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah, that's a good one.
That's my answer.
Oh, perfect. That's great. So Mitch, favorite static part, or someone that never had a static part that you wish did?
Yeah. I mean, my favorite static part is definitely Bobby's.
Bobby's your
Oh,
favorite
yeah.
part?
That's another one where like Bob's
Yeah.
always had good songs.
Yeah, that Kink song
Yeah.
is perfect.
The Van Morrison song from the
Dancing a
FTC
little
video, like he's had so many good.
Yeah, there's certain guys that like.
Sean Mullendore, Static 1. I'm cheating.
Oh my gosh, Mullendore. I think in the new Static, there's like a montage with like.
Don't tell me he has new footage.
No, not new footage, but there's a montage of like throwbacks, and I think he's got a few tricks in there. I think because I don't know where else I would have seen Sean Mullendore footage. Yeah, he's one of the
So sick.
most underrated East Coast skaters ever, huh?
Oh, for sure.
I would always remember his footage, and then I had a friend out here who grew up in like Maryland, and I dropped that name on him one time. He was like, "Oh my God, you remember Sean Mullendore?" I'm like, "The dude always had the gnarliest footage."
So sick. I think he became like a mechanic or something.
Yeah, that DC pop.
So good. That Pit Crew video. That was the last part of him I
Where I'm
remember.
from.
Okay.
Yeah.
Where I'm from.
Okay.
Yeah.
I had to.
So sick.
Yeah, this one had the premiere. The first premiere was like 7:30, and the second one was 8:30. But when we're checking in, they actually had like a list. Like you had to be on the list to get your ticket. Oh, and the tickets were like, I don't have it. The tickets were like hand numbered, and then if you weren't on the list for the 7:30, they're like, okay, stand over here. You'll go to the 8:30. Then I go in the theater, and it's like it doesn't even start till like after 8. I'm like, well, they're gonna like the other second showing's gonna have to wait. But then Josh, I saw him like leave the theater halfway through, so they had the second showing in a different theater. They had it showing in 2 theaters that night, which is pretty crazy, right? So I think
That's insane.
Josh left to go give another speech before the second showing. But he was saying like, because we were in like the first one, which was I don't know if it was like kind of the VIP one, whatever. He's like, yeah, you guys are getting the long speech, heartfelt speech. Guy that's broken his back for 25 years. That's another thing I was gonna say. Has anyone been filming? So the first Static came out in '99. But didn't he made like a local Tampa video before that, right?
What was it, World Market video? And then there was Cigar City.
Cigar City.
I
He did
think
Cigar
that.
City. So if Static came out in 99, it means he definitely was filming it 98, 97. And he's still to 23. So 25 years of doing his own independent videos.
Huh.
Like, is there anyone that even
And then
comes
add
close
in
to
there that in like what 94, 95, he won Tampa Am, right?
Did he?
I swear, I was just talking to Vern about this the other day. They were like going through the list of like people that won an Am, like, and it was like one of the first Tampa Ams, and Josh won it. I was like, holy shit! Like, I had no idea.
I think Josh might have some clips in Static 6. Now I'm like starting to.
But he can skate.
Yeah, clearly.
He can
Yeah,
skate.
the dude doesn't age. He's looked the same. He's looked the same for 20 years.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was like, has anyone been
Yeah,
filming and making independent videos for 25 plus years? Like, not even close, right?
Yeah, because Dan Wolf bowed out. He stopped doing all that stuff. Ty Evans.
I started later, and yeah, he doesn't make skate videos. John Holland doesn't make skate videos anymore. Strobeck wasn't doing it back then.
And to still be able to make hard copies and sell them these days.
Yeah, what does that say about the product that you make? If you can sell a DVD in 2023.
Blair, well, thanks for having us on. This was enjoyable. Opportunity of a lifetime. So I guess, too, people are probably going to wonder, like, who are these two weirdos, Blair, that you have on here? And Mitch and I have a podcast. We do Dead Air Radio on YouTube, at Dead Air Radio 101 on Instagram if you guys want to take a listen to what we do. Newest one we just did is about corporate shoe brands. We could probably end up bringing some of that stuff over here, too, Blair, if you're cool with it.
Yeah.
I think there's always good conversations to be had with the core versus, non-core, using those terms.
For sure. Sweet. Well, thank you guys. And yeah, I think this is a good inaugural episode, and I'm looking forward to more.
Then do we need credits on this?
No. Like, what kind of credits?
Do you guys have is there a TransWorld outro too
Yeah.
that you guys use or no?
Yeah, there's an outro one I'll send you to. It's literally 3 seconds. It just says skateboarding.com. So.